It's said that if you have sex 4 or more times a week, the risk of heart attack decreases by 21%. Not only does it lower cholesterol, but it also has other benefits waiting for you. Data suggests it may lower heart attack risk. This is YouTube Medical University. This time we will introduce 4 foods that can lower bad cholesterol. If you leave your cholesterol high, it's like having oil accumulate in the blood vessels in your body. It has been proven that this increases the risk of strokes and heart attacks. Once you have a stroke, you may end up bedridden or unable to speak. It becomes difficult to live a healthy and enjoyable life. Even if you are diagnosed with high cholesterol and told by your doctor to exercise more or take medication, there aren't many who follow this advice. Even when told to exercise, many don't continue, and there is resistance to taking medication.
There must be many people who feel the same way, but still.
It's okay. Actually, even the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare recommends that people with high cholesterol first try dietary therapy. They suggest making changes to your diet. In this video, we will introduce 4 foods that can lower bad cholesterol levels, not through exercise or medication, but through diet. We will also discuss what specific products are good to eat and how to consume them. The first one is flaxseed oil. Even though you may have heard of flaxseed oil, I think most people haven't really eaten it. In fact, I haven't eaten much of it either. Actually, this flaxseed oil contains an oil called alpha-linolenic acid, which is one of the omega-3 fatty acids that can lower bad cholesterol, and it's getting a lot of attention. In a certain study in Japan, participants were divided into 2 groups. One group consumed 0.35 ounces of flaxseed oil, which contains alpha-linolenic acid, and the other group consumed 0.35 ounces of corn oil, which contains almost no alpha-linolenic acid. Each group ate their respective oils once a day at dinner. The study then observed how their cholesterol levels changed over a period of 1 to 3 months. Here is the graph of the study results. The black dots represent the decrease in cholesterol levels in those who consume flaxseed oil. The white dots represent corn oil. The study began, and after 4 weeks or 1 month, it was reported that the cholesterol levels of those who ate flaxseed oil had dropped by 25.8 points. In other words, the cholesterol levels had dropped by about a quarter. This means that it has decreased by about a quarter. Isn't that amazing? Just by consuming 10 grams once a day, it has decreased by a quarter, which is a very promising study, don't you think? So how should we consume flaxseed oil? I recommend drizzling it on salads. Why? Because flaxseed oil is said to oxidize easily. Therefore, if it is heated, it will oxidize and the effective ingredients will decrease. So, as a recommended way to eat it, lightly sprinkle olive oil on a salad, then drizzle flaxseed oil on top and try eating it. Actually, you'll understand when you try eating this flaxseed oil, it's not so bad at all. It adds flavor to the salad, making it more palatable, so please try it. As a personal recommendation, if you chop up 6 pieces of cheese or block cheese and sprinkle it on the salad, it will add even more flavor and make the salad delicious. The second of the 4 foods that lower bad cholesterol is soybeans. You may not have heard much about soybeans lowering cholesterol. Many people likely agree, and it's rarely mentioned in YouTube videos. It wasn't explained much. The thing called isoflavonoids contained in these soybeans is attracting attention for possibly lowering total cholesterol and bad cholesterol in the human body. If I introduce a certain study, it's about having the subjects eat beef. But on the other hand, it included oil derived from soybeans, a plant. The subjects ate beef, and on the other hand, some ate regular beef. The results were surprising. Those who ate beef with added soybean oil compared to those who ate regular beef. Bad cholesterol was reduced by 9.3%. Total cholesterol was reported to have dropped by 14.9%. It's said that eating meat raises cholesterol, but just adding soy-derived oil to that meat lowered cholesterol. This suggests that soy itself has a cholesterol-lowering effect. It's about time we start adding soy oil to the meat we usually eat. For those who say that's not something that can be done easily, I admit I can't do it either. So, as a simple and inexpensive way to incorporate soy into your diet, there's natto and tofu. Let's consciously switch to a Japanese diet. Especially recommended is adding tofu or natto to one of your dinner dishes. Just by doing that, you can increase your soy intake, so please give it a try. Soybeans themselves are rich in protein, which is an essential nutrient for building our bodies, so from that perspective, it's important to consume soy. I recommend it. Personally, I recommend natto. Top with chopped green onions, egg yolk, and pour over rice. It's delicious. That summarizes what we've covered. Lower the evil jade cholesterol. We introduced two foods. The first one is perilla oil, which contains. We explained that alpha-linolenic acid may lower cholesterol. Ideally, it should be used without heating, such as in salad dressing or as a final touch in cooking. We recommend such a way of eating. And secondly, it is contained in soybeans. We introduced a paper that said just adding soybeans to meat cooked with isoflavones can lower cholesterol levels. Being aware of Japanese food and just adding a dish of natto or tofu may lower cholesterol. However, there are points to note up to here, but these, such as perilla oil and soybeans, do not necessarily have solid data. We have only introduced one paper, so it does not mean that if you eat this food, your cholesterol will definitely go down, and there may be individual differences. In fact, future studies may not have much effect on perilla oil, and there is a possibility that it may be denied in that way. So please, I would be happy if you could keep up with the latest information and check it out. The two foods that we will introduce in the second half of this program not only lower cholesterol but also reduce the risk of diseases that can cause heart attacks, and there is data that they also reduce mortality rates. We'll introduce the food, so please listen until the end. Let's get started. The third of our top 4 foods that lower cholesterol is fish. I'm sure many of you have been told by your parents that eating blue fish is good for your brain. It is known that it contains a lot of docosahexaenoic acid and eicosapentaenoic acid, which are essential for brain development. Therefore, it is said that eating fish rich in docosahexaenoic acid and eicosapentaenoic acid is good for the brain. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but it does lower cholesterol and reduces the risk of diseases that clog blood vessels. More and more data is being collected on this. In a meta-analysis, a more credible study that combines multiple studies, it is said that consuming fish more than 4 times a week can reduce the risk of myocardial infarction by 21%. It's not just about lowering cholesterol, it's about what lies ahead. There is data that says we can reduce the risk of myocardial infarction, and the interesting thing is that the more fish intake increases, the lower the risk becomes. This relationship is also shown. Specifically, it is said that for every 3.5 ounces of fish intake per week, the risk of myocardial infarction decreases by 5%. So if you take 7 ounces, the risk decreases by 10% and so on. However, there are points to be careful about. Just because fish contain a lot of A and PA, if you consume a large amount of fish, there is also a risk of mercury poisoning. It is known that fish contain trace amounts of mercury, and by eating a large amount of this mercury, the risk of mercury poisoning increases. If you get mercury poisoning, you may start vomiting, have stomach pain, diarrhea, dizziness, and your vision may become blurry, and your kidney function may suddenly deteriorate. These are serious symptoms. In fact, we know which fish contain a lot of mercury, such as swordfish, shark, king mackerel, and tilefish. These fish contain relatively high amounts of mercury, so it is recommended to limit intake to 2.82 ounces per week. On the other hand, fish that contain a lot of A and little mercury include sardines. Others include mackerel grown in the Atlantic and fish like yellowtail and sardines. These fish are high in A and have less mercury, so please consider this when choosing your fish. Personally, I recommend and practice eating canned mackerel. It's always convenient as it's already flavored. Simply open and eat. I eat canned mackerel for lunch during my busy work schedule. This can help control cholesterol, or you can get omega fatty acids from fish and turn it into energy, so it's full of benefits. So please try incorporating canned mackerel and sardines into your life. That's all for now. Take care of your cholesterol. The fourth food choice is nuts. There is solid data about nuts similar to mackerel. Nuts are really good for you, especially when it comes to walnuts. As I mentioned earlier about flaxseed oil, it contains omega-3 fatty acids, which can lower cholesterol. It's famous for that. Other nuts also contain a lot of oils called unsaturated fatty acids, and these oils are also said to lower cholesterol. Therefore, regarding these nuts, they contain about the same amount of data as mackerel, and it is almost certain that cholesterol will decrease, and the risk of death due to hardened blood vessels will decrease. I will introduce a large-scale study. In that study, when comparing people who do not eat nuts and people who eat nuts more than 5 times a week, it was found that people who eat nuts more than 5 times a week have a 14% lower risk of myocardial infarction and cerebral infarction. By the way, this is included in this study. The study, which involved over 5 million participants, focused on peanuts and walnuts, making it a significant research. It is considered to have high credibility. Personally, the way of eating nuts I would recommend is small bag nuts. I recommend eating the nuts in small bags as a substitute for snacks. My workplace snacks are all about these small bag nuts. These small bags. Nuts are a convenient snack with many benefits. You have to chew them to a certain extent to eat them, so you feel like you've eaten something. And they don't dirty your hands like snack sweets do, so you can eat them while you're working when you're a little hungry. And what I mean by snacks is that they're high in calories, so by replacing them with nuts, you can reduce your total calories, which can lower your cholesterol and reduce your risk of heart attacks and strokes. So please try looking for bagged nuts on Amazon or something. Personally, I would like to recommend walnuts, which contain a lot of omega-3 fatty acids. How about that? Lower your bad cholesterol. I've introduced you to 4 foods, including how to eat them and what to watch out for. Now let's review. First, I introduced you to perilla oil. Perilla oil contains alpha-linolenic acid, and there is data showing that people who eat corn oil have significantly lower cholesterol levels compared to those who don't. Perilla oil oxidizes easily, so try drizzling it over your salad and eating it. That's the method I introduced, and secondly, I introduced the unexpected soybeans that contain a lot. Isoflavones can lower total cholesterol and bad cholesterol. It is said, as a recommended way of eating, why not try adding tofu or natto to your meal? And thirdly, I introduced fish. And if you consume fish 4 times a week, the risk of myocardial infarction decreases, and if you consume 3.5 ounces a week, the risk decreases by 5. I introduced such a thing. And you must be careful about mercury, so consume fish that is low in mercury. And as a recommended way of eating, mackerel and sardines are the easiest to handle. I introduced it. And finally, I introduced nuts as the 4th item by eating nuts more than 5 times a week. The risk of myocardial infarction and cerebral infarction decreases. And as a recommended way of eating, it's nuts in small bags. I recommended replacing it with regular snacks. Among the nuts, I especially recommended walnuts, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, like this. At the medical university, we are broadcasting videos that support everyone's healthy life with the responsibility of making it easy to understand from the standpoint of active doctors. People with high health consciousness are surprisingly deceived by false information, and things like I was deceived happen. In order to prevent such things, we are broadcasting good quality information with responsibility. So if you like, please register for the channel. And it's okay with the good button or the bad button, so I would like you to rate this video and use it next time. And I would like a comment. A doctor told me my cholesterol was around a certain value. When I ate a specific food, it decreased. If you have issues with your cholesterol not going down, let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.